All right, welcome, welcome. All right, so this is my first live stream. I've never done anything like this before. I am just giving it a shot. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I will be able to respond to them. But my goal for today, was to do a couple things. I wanted to show you how to get logged into Delta Math. I know that's been a really big headache. I think overall it's going to help us move forward, but we just got to get everyone set up and understand what's going on with Delta Math. So we're going to start with that. And then once we've done that, my plan initially was to get through to do a couple examples for week 7 homework and our week 6 homework. And then from there, that's my plan. If there are any questions, I will take those as we get through them. Let me go ahead and post this announcement to my students in Google Classroom, and then we'll get going. All right, so I'm gonna move that. Okay. All right. So here is the plan. All right. So like I said, we're first thing we want to do is we want to go over how to get logged into Delta Math. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to go to deltamath.com. All right. So you're going to see a website that looks something like this. All right, so let me go ahead and delete my password. Right. All right, so it's going to look something like this, deltamath.com. If you are in my class, you're a student, you're going to go to the top right-hand corner, and you're going to press the Create Account. You're going to create an account, and you hit Student. All right, the code to join my Delta Math class for my classroom is 787409. You're going to type that in. Remember, all this information is in the Google Classroom link that I provided. It should all be there. We're just doing another walkthrough on how to get through. All right, so 787409, you should see my name, Mr. Siegel. You're going to pick the block that you're in. So I'm just going to pick block 1 for now. You're going to hit your first name, your last name, email, your student email. Now remember, this is going to be your school email, right? So this is going to be anything, the email you use for Central Unified. So that's I don't remember the naming scheme for it, but yeah, email, password, then your student ID. Hit create account, and it will look something like this. Let me go ahead and log in really quick, and it'll look like this on your end. Hey, there's actually a viewer here. All right, so this is what it's going to look like, right? So right now, this week, today, we didn't do any new homework assignment. I wanted to give you time in class to go over stuff. So we have our Unit 4 retake ticket. Remember, you do not have to do this. The only reason you would do this is if you wanted to retake the Unit 4 test, right? And so it's going to look something like this. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see we have our calculator. There's a walkthrough button up here if you need it. There's also going to be like a menu up here that I don't have because I'm on my teacher account. In fact, if you give me a second, let's see if I think I can log into Delta Math as a student. So let me go ahead and try that. All right, so it'll look something like this. So this is actually in my student account. So you have a little drop down that says manage login and courses. So if you're not logged into my class, I can actually get you hooked up. So we can hit edit. And if I need to add a teacher code, again, this is where you would add your teacher code 787409. And then again, just block and add. Okay. All right, and it would look like this. So if I hit back to my home, so if you have any questions, you're having any problems getting logged in for this, just let me know. We can go over it in class again. I'm just waiting for this to load. So like I said, the plan for today was I wanted to go over how to get into Delta Math. I also wanted to go over week 6 and week 7 homework. And that's what we're going to start next. As soon as Delta Math loads. It's going to take forever to load. All right, we're going to go through my teacher account, but it'll look like this. All right. So we're going to start with week 7. This was Monday's homework, or well, Tuesday's, Wednesday's homework. All right. So we did input versus output on a graph. We did table to linear equations level 2. So this is review. And then we started talking about linear equations. So we had ax plus by equals c. We had to write in terms of that, and then we had our standard slope-intercept form. So let's do a couple of problems. Remember, when you're doing this, you just have to get this number to 100%. So I only have to do 2 problems. I've done a couple of these with you already, so I'm just going to do 2 really quick, and I'm going to show you how this works. All right. So this is when we're doing this. This is talking about we're talking about inputs and outputs. Right, so the graph y equals f of x is shown below. We want to find all values where values of x, where f of x equals 0. Right, so remember this, the number when f of x is equal to something, this is the number that's going to be our height. Right, so we're trying to figure out what letter x is going to give us a height of 0. Right, and so all we have to do is we have to look at our graph, and I'm looking for when my height, my y is going to be, oops, so we can clear that. My height is going to be 0, right? So I'm looking here, my height is at 0 right here, so my answer is just going to be 4, because that's going to be the x that gives us the right answer, right? So let's go ahead and I'm going to submit it, I'm going to clear this, right? This is basically what this is saying, right? So if I plug into my function, we have f of 4 is going to give me 0. That's basically what it's asking. All right, so let's try another problem. Let's do one more. We'll do one more. Okay, I know I've already completed. So like I said, we just did 2 out of 2. Like I already did one before. As soon as you get 2 out of 2, you don't have to do any more. But I wanted to show you another one just in case. All right, so now it's asking, hey, we want to find the value of f of 5. So this is basically saying we're going to be given, hey, our function, we have some function. Now we're looking for the height. What is going to go right there? So if my x is -5, I'm looking right here at x equals -5. I'm looking for what is my height of the function at that point, which is going to be, let me go ahead and change colors. Let's change colors here. My height is going to be a +5. So that's actually what we're going to plug in here for our answer. Okay. All right. So pretty straightforward, right? So that was our first section. So there's a couple things that you can do when you're doing the homework. You can hit next section once you've completed it, or you can hit back and go and look at all 4 sections from that homework, right? So I'm just gonna hit back, and I'm gonna go to the table to linear equations level 2. Now this is what we struggled with in class. So this is why I'm having you go over this again. I wanted to give you some more practice with this. All right, we have to find the equation of the linear function represented by the table below in slope-intercept form, right? So remember, slope-intercept form is just going to be y equals mx plus b, all right? So let's go ahead and look at this. So I'm going to write this on my iPad. Just a little easier for me to do it down here. I need to reset. Unfortunately, it wasn't connecting properly. Okay, there we go, much better. All right, so we have a table. So I'm just gonna copy down my table. We have xy equals, and then we have 1, 6, 2, 8, 3, 10, and 4, 12, right? So we're trying to write the linear function, right? So we're gonna write it, typically we wanna write it in a slope-intercept form, which is gonna be mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. Remember, the m tells us our slope, the b is our y-intercept. And typically when we're talking about the y-intercept, we're looking for when x is equal to 0. And as you can see, we don't have an x equals 0 here. So we're gonna have to find that after we look for our slope. So I'm gonna look for the slope first. And the way we find our slope is we're gonna use this formula, right? We have y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Right, and I just need to pick 2 points. We're picking 2 points now. It doesn't matter which 2, so I'm going to use 1, 6 and 2, 8. So all we're going to do, I'm going to call this my x1 y1. And this is going to be my x2, y2. All right, so on top, I'm going to put my first y. It's going to be 6. And right below it, this is the trick, we need to make sure that this x goes right below the 6. So right below it, we're going to write 1, right? And then we have minus, minus, because we're subtracting the second point now. So we're going to subtract 8 over 2. So we have 6 minus 8. That's going to be negative 2. 1 minus 2 is going to be negative 1. We need to simplify this. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. We'll be left with a slope of 2. Right? So if I wanted to start rewriting my equation now, we're going to write y equals, I'm just going to plug in a positive 2 for my slope. All right, so what this means is for every 1, let me go ahead and erase some of this. For every 1 that I'm increasing in the x, I'm increasing 2 in the right in my y. Right? So that's, remember, you can rewrite 2 as 2 over 1. So my rise is 2, my change in y is 2, my change in x is going to be 1, or my run is going to be 1. So if I need to go backwards, right, notice I'm trying to get to 0. If I subtract 1, I have to subtract 2 in the x. Oh, and my iPad froze. This is, I love that app, but I hate it at the same time. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up OneNote, and we'll do a blank page here, right? So just really quickly. So I'm looking for 0. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. And this was 6, 8, 10, and 12. We said our slope was going to be a positive 2. So normally we'd be, for every 2 we increase in the y, we're increasing by 1 in the x. Now we need to reverse that. So if I'm going the opposite direction, I need to subtract 1 on bottom, subtract 2 on top. So my y-intercept is going to be 4. Right? Another way we could have done this is if by using Desmos, right? So remember, you can always use Desmos in my class to double check your work. So just go to desmos.com. It'll look like this. Just hit graphing table. Remember, if you want to make a table really quick, you just hit table. You're going to go, I'm just going to plug in 0 because I want those points eventually to, whoops, that was supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we had negative 6. Negative, oh no, that was supposed to be positive 6, positive 6, positive 8, positive 10, positive 12. All right, so if I look at where this is, I'm going to go ahead and put it in projector mode. We can kind of start to see the pattern, right? So I'm going down 2 and to the left 1. I'm going down 2 and to the left 1. So I'm just going down 2 from here, from 6. Minus 2 is going to give me a 4. My y-intercept is going to be right there at 4. We can even write the line for that, right? So my y-intercept is positive 4. Slope is 2. So it's going to look just like that, okay? All right. So that's how you do those types of problems, right? So we got, let's see. All right, so what we need to do is we just need to write the equation, right? So we just want to find the equation. So we're going to go ahead and write it. I'm going to switch back to my iPad because that's what where I had it written down. No, actually, we didn't write it on my iPad. Yeah, we did. So we had our slope. We said our y-intercept was 4. So it's going to look like y equals 2x plus 4. All right, so that's what we're going to type in. So we have y equals 2x plus, whoops, that's not, don't need that s. 2x plus 4. And submit. All right, we'll have a green check mark. There it is. So I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment or a question in the chat. I can go over any of the homework problems. I'm just going to pick a few here or there. We're going to do another one of these. Like I'm just going to basically do the homework, and so you can kind of see my thought process behind how to do this. All right, so we just finished the first problem. Let's do one more. Same section. This is again the table to linear equations level 2. Again, we don't have a y-intercept, so I'm going to go ahead and hit clear. Let's hit clear on this. All right, again, we're trying to write the equation for this. So let's go ahead and switch back to my iPad. I will copy this table. So I'm going to write, we have x, y. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. then we're going -3, -5, -7, and -9. Okay, so again, we're trying to write our equation. We just need to find our y-intercept and our slope. We don't have our y-intercept yet. We're going to have to find that. So we're going to start with our slope. So I'm going to do that in green. Remember, our equation is just y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Right? So I'm just going to pick 2 points. It doesn't matter which two, just pick 2 points. So we're going to do 1, -3, and just to prove that we can do any 2 points, I'm going to pick the third point this time. Right? Because we did the first and second, I think, on the last one. All right, so I'm going to write -3 first. I'm going to write 1 right below it. Then we have minus, minus, and we have -7 over 3. Right? And so when we're doing this, right, we have -3 minus a -7. When we subtract a negative, that's like adding. So we're going to get 4 over -2. We need to simplify this. So my answer for my slope is going to be -2. So my slope is -2. Right? So as what's happening here is as we're increasing down the table, we're subtracting 2 as we go up by 1, right? So remember, we can rewrite this as -2 over 1. I'm going down 2 for every 1 I go increase on my x. So I need to reverse that to get to my y-intercept, because we're at 1, we need to get to 0. So if I'm going to subtract 1, I need to do the opposite of -2, which is +2. So we're going to add 2 to -3, which will give us -1. So my y-intercept, because our y-intercept is going to be where our x is equal to 0, is going to be, let's go and write this out. Our equation is going to end up looking like this. We have y equals -2x minus 1. So let's go ahead and bring that over to our assignment in Delta Math. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and switch over. We got y equals -2 times x minus 1. And go ahead, hit enter. Perfect. All right, so that's how we do those types of problems, right? Again, you don't have to do more than 2. I'm only asking you to do 2 of these problems. So we hit back. Let's look at, I'll do 2 of each of these, right? So I'm just working through the problems. So xy intercept, or the x and y intercept for ax plus by equals c. All right, so we want to find the x and y intercepts for the graph 3x plus 2y equals 14. State your answer as a whole number or as improper fraction, right? So we're just going to leave it as an improper fraction. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring this equation back to my iPad. So we got 3x plus 2y equals 14. So remember from our notes when we talked about this, we said that if we want to find our x and y intercept, we're essentially plugging in the other letter as 0. So if I'm looking for my x-intercept, y is going to equal 0. If I'm looking for my y-intercept, x is going to be equal to 0. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rewrite these equations. So we're going to write 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 14, right? So all I did was I plugged in 0 for y. All right, so let's go ahead and solve it now. We just got to solve for x. We're just going to solve for x. All right, so 2 times 0 is just going to be 0, and we'll have 3x plus 0 equals 14. 3x plus 0 is just 3x equals 14. And I want to get this x by itself, so I need to, this is 3 times x. So we're going to divide. The opposite of multiplication is divide. The 3 is reduced to 1. And we're left with x on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we're going to get, we're not going to be able to, if this was 15, we'd be able to write 5. But unfortunately, we can't simplify this, right? So we don't want to write this. This would be 4 2/3. Our instructions are asking us to leave it as an improper fraction. So we're not going to write this. We're going to leave it as 14 over 3. So I would, in my class, I would take this as an answer. If you wanted to write it as a coordinate point, you would write 14 over 3 because that's my x. And remember, we plugged in 0 for y. So it'd be 14 thirds, comma, 0. So either way, I will take that when we write as a answer this as on a quiz or a test. Right? So now we're doing the exact opposite. So let me go ahead and try and separate this a little bit. I tend to write a little bit too big. All right, so let's try this again. Yeah, so remember we're looking for the y-intercept now, but this time we're going to be plugging in 0 for x, right? So we're going to do 3, but instead of writing x, I'm going to write 0 because I'm plugging that in right there, plus 2y equals 14. We're just copying the problem now. We're just plugging in 0 for x. 3 times 0 is 0 plus 2y equals 14. 2y plus 0 is 2y equals 14. I want to get this y by itself. So I'm going to undo the multiplication. So we're going to divide by 2. It's simplified on the left-hand side. So we have y equals 14 divided by 2 is 7. All right, so I will take this, or you can write it in our coordinate points. Remember, our y is 7, and we plugged in 0 for x. So the coordinate point for our y-intercept would look like this. Right? So if you can actually do this also in Desmos, right? I'm a big fan of Desmos. If you want to check your answer in my class, go for it. So we're going to do a new blank graph. I'm going to go ahead and we're in projector mode. All right, so if I'm just going to type in the original equation, which was 3x plus 2y equals 14. All right, so if we take a look, our y-intercept is 0, 7, just like we had it written down, right? So I'm going to go and show my answer right down here. We had 0, 7 for my y-intercept in green. We had 14 and 2/3, which is what we said. Remember, we simplified it. That would be the decimal version of 14 and 2/3, right? So 4 plus 2/3, same thing. Okay, it's just written in decimal form. All right, so that's the first problem. We're only going to do 2 of these, so let's go ahead and do this. We said that our x-intercept was going to be 14 divided by 3. Our y-intercept was going to be 7. Go and hit some answer, and voila. All right, so there's number 1 done. We're going to do more. All right, so same idea, right? We're trying to find the x and y-intercepts of the graph for x minus 3y equals 21. State your answer as a whole number or as improper fraction. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down. We got the equation x minus 3y equals 21. You want to state your answer as an improper fraction. Okay, so again, remember, we're just trying to find our x and y-intercept. So I'm going to use red this time. Let's do, if I'm looking for my x-intercept, we're looking for when y is equal to 0. So let's go ahead and write this, right? So if I'm looking for my x-intercept, we'll have x minus 3, not y, but 0, 21. 3 times 0 is 0, so we have x minus 0 equals 21. X minus 0 is just x. So my y-intercept is 21. Or if you wanted to write it as a coordinate point, we'd write 21 as 0, right? All right, so for our y-intercepts, we're looking for when x is equal to 0. So let's go ahead and write our equation out. We have 0 minus 3y equals 21. 0 minus 3y is going to be just negative 3y. We need to get this y by itself, and that's negative 3 times y. So we're going to divide by negative 3. So we'll reduce this to 1. 21 divided by negative 3 is going to be a negative 7. So there's my y-intercept, or if you want to write it as a coordinate point, just like that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and bring our answers over and check our work. We have x-intercept of 21, a y-intercept of negative 7. And there we go. Awesome, right? So there's two quick examples on how to do this. All right, so let's go to our last section. The last section that we need to talk about is going to be, let's go back. All right, so we did two of here. Now we need to do our standard to slope-intercept form. So basically what's going to happen here is I'm going to give you an equation in standard form, and you need to write it as a y-intercept form. Gotta move that over just a little bit so I can more easily look at the camera. So we're just converting this into slope-intercept form. So we need it to look like y equals mx plus b, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my iPad. So we got 4x plus 20y equals negative 180. All right, so what we're doing is we're just taking our standard form, which looks like ax plus by equals c, and we're converting that into y equals mx plus b. So we're basically solving for y. All right, so we want to get the y by itself. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to do this in green. We got 4x plus 20y equals negative 180. So I haven't laid it out today in the stream yet, but remember when we're working through this, we're trying to solve. We're normally doing our order of operations would be PEMDAS, but we're solving here everything as simple as possible. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to do SAD-MEP. So we're going to undo our addition and subtraction. So we're going to subtract. We're going to start by subtracting 4x because I want to get this term all by itself. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 4x minus 4x is going to be 0. And we're left with 20y equals negative 4x minus 180. And this is 20 times y, so I need to undo that. So we're going to undo that by dividing by 20. Dividing by 20. The 20 is reduced, so we're left with y equals. On the left-hand side, I'm going to bring this over just a little bit, and I'm going to kind of like side note this. I want to separate this out, right? So we have a minus sign right here. So I'm going to separate my fraction right at that minus sign. So we're going to do negative 4x divided by 20. We also have minus 180 divided by 20. All right, and from here, we're just going to simplify. All right, so if I'm going to bring my y down, we can simplify the 4 and the 20, right? 4 goes into 4 one time, and 4 goes into 20 5 times. So we're going to be left with negative 1/5 times x. We also can do this division, right? So we can say that 20 goes into 180. That's going to be 9 times, but it's going to be negative 9. So that is going to be our answer in simplified form. Right, so we have a y-intercept of negative 9. We also have a slope of negative 1/5. Right, again, you can always go look at Desmos to double check your work. Let's go ahead and try it out. Right, we have y equals negative 1 divided by 5 times x minus 9. Oops, that was so what happens when you're not looking at what you're typing. Got it all in the denominator there on accident. Hit submit. Perfect. Okay, so there's first example. Let's do one more. We're going to do one more here. So we want to put the following equation of a line into slope-intercept form, simplifying all fractions, right? So same thing, right? We're just going to be taking this rule. We want to solve for y. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this back over to my iPad really quick so we can do this. So we got 8y minus 4x equals negative 56. Right, so again, we're just solving for y. We're trying to get y by itself. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, this is saying minus 4x, so we want to do the opposite of subtracting 4x. So we're going to add 4x to both sides. So we'll be left with 8y equals 4x, because my negative 4x plus 4x is going to cancel out. Then we're going to have minus 56. Okay. All right. From here, I need to get this y by itself, and this is 8 times y. So I'm going to divide by 8, and whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other side of the fraction. So 8 divided by 8 is just going to simplify to 1. So we'll be left with y on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, again, we need to break this down. We have it's a nasty looking number. We're going to simplify this by breaking it right at that minus sign. So we'll have 4x divided by 8, and then minus 56 divided by 8. So we can simplify this now. We're going to get y equals, we can actually simplify 4 and 8, right? So 4 goes into 4 one time. 8 goes into 4 goes into 8 two times. So we'll be left with 1/2 x. 56 divided by 8 is going to be, that would be, why is my brain freezing? There we go, -7. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. And plug it into, so we have y equals, remember you can either type it out or you can use the calculator button right there in the bottom corner. So we got y equals 1 divided by 2 times x minus 7. So check my answer. Voila. Okay, so that's how you're going to do 712 practice, right? So we're going to go on to 722 practice. Now remember, when I was doing this, I'm only expecting you to do this part. This is going to be extra credit. I will do 2 of these problems to show you how to do them, but I'm not expecting you to do it because it takes a little more thinking, right? So let's start comparing. This is the whole point of this unit. We're starting to compare linear functions to exponential functions. We're trying to compare and contrast them there. All right, so we want to find the x-intercept. We're going to compare the x-intercept. Remember, when we're talking about the x-intercept, we're going to be talking about when y is equal to 0. Of each line defined below and find their values, right? So if we're looking for the y-intercept, I'm going to take this equation and solve for y. You can also just plug this into Desmos and it will tell you what our x-intercept is going to be, right? But I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to do this algebraically. So we got y minus 3 equals negative x minus 4. Right, we're trying to find the x-intercept. So we're going to be plugging in y, a 0 for y. Let's go ahead and do this, right? So we're going to do, this is going to be 0 minus 3 equals negative x minus 4. Right, that's all I did. I just plugged in, I switched my y for 0. Right, so if we do this, right, we're going to get negative 3 equals, this is going to be a negative, we can actually distribute this. Let's distribute this -1, right? So there's a 1 right here. We're going to distribute this -1 in. So it's going to be -1 times x, so that's going to make this a negative x. And a -1 times a -4 is going to be a positive 4. Right? So now what we need to do is we need to get that x by itself. We're trying to solve for x. We're trying to find the x-intercept. So what we need to do is we need to undo this addition of 4. So we're going to subtract 4. 4 minus 4 is going to be 0. Oops, I didn't mean to erase it. It's going to be 0. Three minus 4 is going to be -7. We're going to be left with negative x on the right-hand side. Negative x on the right-hand side. All right, so we still don't quite have this finished yet. We want x by itself, and this is a negative x, so we need to multiply. We need to multiply by -1. And whenever you do one side, you have to do the other. You have to keep this balanced. So negative, this is going to be a 7 equals, x equals 7. All right, so there is our x-intercept. So if I go back at the bottom, it's going to ask, hey, what is the x-intercept for A? The x-intercept for line A is going to be 7. But now we need to find the x-intercept for line B. Right, so remember we said that we find the x-intercept by looking for when y is equal to 0. So if you look right here, we have y is equal to 0 in the table. So what we're going to do is our x-intercept for that is going to be -2. So the x-intercept for line A is going to be greater than, because 7 is greater than negative 2. And voila. Okay. All right, so there's number 1. We're going to do one more. We're going to do one more. Remember, at any point, if you're having a hard time with this in my class, remember you can always watch a video. Like, they've done a really good job with Delta Math here, and I'm really, really loving it. They have a help video. If I would get rid of this, you would see up in the corner that there's usually some sort of walkthrough. Even if you get it wrong, it says it'll give you wrong. It'll give you a walkthrough on how to do it. It'll tell you, and it'll show you an example. Like, if I want to see an example, there it is. Right here it is. Okay. So let's go back. Okay, well, I wanted to finish that. Sorry, sorry, I am misclicking all over the place. Just gonna hit refresh. There we go. All right, so now we're looking for the slope. All right, the cool thing about this is we didn't talk about this form here. This is called our point slope form, and we would have a point already there, and our slope is actually going to be this number here. It's going to be negative 3/4. But let's actually, the way I taught it in class was I wanted you to go through the steps of converting this into y-intercept form to get you practice doing the algebra. Remember, you can either do it algebraically, or you can use Desmos to help you with this. Right, so whatever tool you feel more comfortable using. I would suggest knowing how to do both, just in case, because I'm okay with using a calculator, but it might help you in the long run. All right, so if we want to distribute this 3/4 in, let's go ahead and start with that. So we got negative 3/4 x. Then when we multiply, I'm going to bring this over here just to show you. When we multiply negative 3/4 by 4, my 4 is reduced to 1, and we're going to be left with just negative 3. So right here is negative 3. We have y plus 3 equals negative 3/4 x minus 3. And I want to get this y by itself, so I need to subtract 3 from both sides. So we're going to be left with y on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we'll have negative 3/4 x. And then negative 3 minus 3 is going to be negative 6. Right? There is my equation, right? So just like I said, that our slope was going to be that number. Our slope for line A is going to be negative 3/4. Negative 3 divided by 4. All right, so for when we have a table and we're looking for the slope, we need to use that equation that we were talking about earlier. So we got our table here. We have x, y is going to be negative 6, 0, and 6. We have 10, 5, and 0. All right, so remember we're using the equation. We're just looking for slope. So we're doing y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So I'm going to pick any 2 points. So I'm going to use these 2 points. Right, so the first number, and just to prove a point that you can do this with any number, any 2 points, it doesn't matter which one you call 1 and 2. So this is going to be, the bottom one is going to be my x1, y1, and the top one is going to be my x2, y2. So I'm going to start with 0 on top. Whatever I start with, the 6 has to go right below it. We're going to do minus 5 minus 0, because 5 over 0. We want that 5 over the 0. So let's go ahead and do this. We have 0 minus 5 is going to be negative 5. Then 6 minus 0 is positive 6. So our slope is going to be negative 5/6. All right, so let's go back to Delta Math. We have negative 5 divided by 6. All right, so we got negative 3/4. Another way to say the negative 3/4 is going to, if I wanted to convert that into a decimal, it'd be 0.75. So we have negative 0.75 and 5/6. That would be 50 divided by 3 would be, my brain is not quite working right now, so I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit. 5 divided by 6 would be 0.83. Negative 0.83, right? So clearly, just by using, our slope for line B is going to be smaller than the slope for line A. Remember, we're talking about on a number line. We're looking at negative 5, 6 right here. This was -1. We have 0 here. So -3/4 would be like right here. So A is going to be greater than B. Okay. All right. So remember, you had to do 3 of those problems. The next part that I'm going to do is all just extra credit. I'll do one more of these. I've done a couple of these in class already. But if you complete all 3 of these, they're going to be extra credit, right? And this is all that can be done in the chart. We don't actually have to do any handwriting for this, right? So it's all about reading and understanding what the question's asking, right? So Carter is deciding, let me make this a little bit bigger. Carter is deciding between 2 landscaping companies for his place of business. The company A charges $50 per hour and $3 equipment fee, a $300 equipment fee. So if I wanted to write an equation here, we could say company A is charging $50 per hour plus $300, like a $300 flat fee. All right, so then company B charges $75 per hour. So for every hour, they're charging $75. So if it's 1 hour, it's going to be 75. If it's 2 hours, it's going to be 150. And then for every, they start at 150. Right. So what's going to happen is, I want this to go away. I'm basically going to use this information to draw our lines. Right. We're going to draw a line for line A and a line for line B. So let's go ahead and do that, right? So for line A, we need to start at 300, right? That's where we're starting. They haven't worked. That's a flat fee. They have to pay $300 no matter what, and then they pay $50 per hour. So got to really pay attention to what my scale is going to look like on the y-axis. So for every 1, I go up in a number of hours. I'm going to be going up 50, and it looks like it's just going to be if the numbers were the same, it'd be just like a up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Then for line B, we're starting at 150. And now we're going to go up, for every 1 we go across, we need to go up 75, right? So we're going up, there's 50, 1 little more, and that's going to be 75. So here's our 2 graphs, right? Now what we need to do is we need to read the question, right? It's just going to ask to graph that. So we just did graph and determine the interval of hours for which the company is cheap, for company A is cheaper than company B, right? So we're trying to figure out, when is my company A going to be cheaper for company B? And we said company A was this one here. So from here, from 0 all the way out, and this is where they cross out. This is going to be, this point right here is where they are the same, right? So let's go ahead and draw a few lines here. I'm going to go ahead and for any time before 6 hours, this was going to be our company B, and this was going to be our company A. All right, anytime before 6 hours, company A, this one right here, is going to be more expensive than company B. But we're looking for when company A is cheaper, right? So notice how, hey, my line for the blue line is now below the red line. So it's going to be any time after 6 hours, right? So company A is cheaper than company B when T is greater than 6 hours. 6 hours. So that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to like read through the problem, figure out what it's asking for, and then and fill it in, right? So hit submit answer. Cool. All right, so let's do one more problem. We'll do one more problem. Let me go ahead and clear that. All right, so again, Chase is deciding between 2 different movie streaming sites to subscribe to. Plan A costs $6 per month plus $2 per movie watched, and then Plan B costs $12 per month plus $1 per movie watched. Let A represent the monthly cost of Plan A if Chase watches X per month, and let B represent the monthly cost for Plan B if Chase watches X movies per month. Graph each function to determine which plan would be cheaper if Chase plans on watching 8 movies each month. Okay, sorry, let's start by writing our equations, right? So let's do Plan A. Remember, our Plan A was 6 per month and 20 movies watched. So for every movie, all right, so we're talking about per month. So it doesn't matter what happens. If he watches 0 movies, he's going to be charged $6. So that's our flat fee. And then when we're talking about per month, per movie, if he watches 2 movies, it's going to be written like this. So we have 2 times the number of movies we watch. So if we watch 1 movie, it's $2. 2 movies is $4, and so on. Let's go ahead and move this over. So now we're talking about Plan B. Right, so movie Plan B. So we got starting that costs $12 per month, but only $1 per movie, right? So remember, our flat fee, it doesn't matter. He can watch 0 movies or 100 movies. He's going to get charged that $12. But for every movie, he's only going to get charged $1. Right, so our equation is going to look something like this, and we need to graph these 2 equations. And I'm going to try and highlight this in red and blue just to help us out. So I'm going to do the blue first so I can get the exact same color. We're going to do 1x plus, all right, so it's 12. So we're starting at 12. And we're going up $1 for every x, right? So notice, remember, I'm going up by 2's on my y. So I'm going up, it looks something like this. If I go over 2, I need to go up a full line. So there's my line for blue. So let's go ahead and draw a line, our blue line. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to do red now. Let's go back to red. All right, so for red, it's starting at 6. But charges, let's actually do this, right? So we had starting at 6, but charging $2 per movie. Starting at 6 and charging $2 per movie. So for every 1 movie, it's going to be going up 2. So let's go ahead and let's draw this line now in red. All right, it's going to be something like that. So clearly, like if we were to draw a couple lines here, they're going to meet when X is 6 and at $18. This is really hard to draw with the mouse, so I'm sorry about that. All right, so when my X is 6, they're going to match. They're going to be the same. So anything below $6, the red line is cheaper. Anything above $6, the blue line is cheaper. Right? Let's go back to our question. Chase wants to graph would be cheaper if plans. Okay, which one would be cheaper if he was watching 8 movies? Remember, 8 was going to be represented by our X. So we're going to take a look at when we're looking right here. So which one is cheaper if he plans on watching 8 movies? If you look, my blue line is below my red line, so it's going to be Plan B. So Plan B it's going to be $2 cheaper when watching than Plan A when watching 8 movies. Okay, so that's how you do that, right? So remember, again, this is just extra credit. So if you don't want to get the extra credit, you don't necessarily have to do it. I would highly recommend it because I think it'd be really good for you to try those. And that's our homework from week 7, right? So I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all of week 6's homework, but we're going to give it a shot. I was planning only staying on for an hour. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So yeah, let's just keep going. All right, so we'll start with the first homework we did on Delta Math, right? So remember, I'm probably not gonna do 2 of each on this. I'm gonna show you how to do 1, and then we'll go from there. And I think this is where a lot of people got confused, right? Because remember, we're just trying to draw a line that represents the rise and a line representing the run, right? This is a review of 8th grade math, right? We're trying to figure out our slope. And my suggestion was that you move your mouse along the cursor until you see that my orange dot snaps on to 2 points. So for example, we can use our y-intercept. Remember, we can use our y-intercept there. And I saw that it also connect here. So I'm just drawing a right triangle. Now the thing is you don't have to use this right triangle. You could have done this right triangle if you so chose. If you don't like the triangle on top, you could have done this right triangle. As long as you're making a triangle with 1 right angle, that's all we're looking for. Right? From here, we're going to count. Remember, we said our slope was rise over run. Our slope is going to be that. Green is just awful. Let's go back to red. So remember, if I had a skater dude on this line, our skater dude would look like they were going downhill. So our slope is going to be negative because if I count this, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're actually going down 5. So our slope, our rise is going to be -5. Remember, this is my rise. My run, I got to count now. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's going to be positive 10. We need to simplify that. That's going to be, we can reduce both of them by 5. So it's going to be negative 1/2. Right? So my slope is going to be negative 1 divided by 2 and hit submit answer. Right, so we're just, I think the key here, and I think this is where most of you are, most of my students are getting stuck on this, is they're not able to draw the right triangle and they're not simplifying the fraction. Those are the two big mistakes that I'm seeing when we do stuff like this. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's do the next section, right? So we have graphing lines from equations, right? So remember, when we're talking about equations, especially in slope-intercept form, we have the slope and the y-intercept given to us. Remember, that's my y-intercept. Here's my slope. So I'm looking at this. Remember, if there's no number underneath, it's going to be a 1. So my y-intercept is going to be a positive 3. So we're crossing this y-axis at positive 3. And now I just need to use the slope to find the next point, right? So we're going down, it's negative 5. So that means I'm going down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. That's going to be my answer. Okay, perfect, voila. So that's what you're doing for these. Let's do the next one. We want to write the equations now. So we started with slope. I'm trying to remind you on how all the parts of a line, right? So we did slope, and then we did you had to graph something. If I gave you the line, now I'm giving you a line, and you have to tell me the graph. So let's go ahead and erase this. All right. So if we look, hey, easy to find the y-intercept. Remember, we're just trying to find our y-intercept and our slope. So my y-intercept is going to be right here. It's going to be negative 7. My slope, remember, I'm just going to draw a right triangle. The dot's already given to you. So we'll go like this and then down. So my rise, remember, this is going to be a negative slope. I'm going down 3. So remember, we always go from left to right. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My run is going to be 5. So my slope is just going to be negative 3/5. So if I wanted to write this equation out, I would do y equals negative 3 divided by 5, x minus 5. Hit submit. Green check mark. Remember, green check mark means we're done with that problem. All right, we still have to do one more. You're going to have to do one more on your own. I'm just showing you how to do these types of problems. People are just confused on how to do it. We've never really messed with Delta Math up until this point, but I think it's a lot better than trying to do this with Google Forms. It's a lot more forgiving. All right, so tables, this is where we started talking about tables, and this is why I kept going back to it in our warm-ups, because we really struggled with especially the second part. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do level 1, but I'm probably not going to do another level 2, because I already showed you how to do level 2. All right, so remember, we're looking for slope-intercept form. We're just looking for y equals mx plus b, right? So if I look, remember when we find our y-intercept, it's going to be when x is equal to 0. So b is going to be negative 9. What we need to do is we need to find our slope. So I'm going to use my iPad because it's a lot easier for me to write on my iPad. So I'm going to pick these 2 points. It doesn't matter which 2 points you pick, as long as you pick 2 points. So we have our slope. It's going to be, remember, it's going to be, we'll do 27 first. If I'm looking back at it, I'm going to be picking this x if I started with 24. So it's going to be 27 over 4, minus, and then I need to do my y on top and then the x on bottom. Right? So let's go ahead and do this. 27 minus 9 is going to be 18. 4 minus 2 is going to be 2. 18 divided by 2 is going to be 9. So my slope is going to be 9. All right, so all we have to do now, all right, it's giving us the y, so we're just going to type in the rest. So we have our slope of 9 times x minus 9, and hit submit answer. Perfect, awesome. All right, so in the next part, we've already done this. So So I'm not going to do that one. So just to review, like just to show you what it would look like. This is a different problem now. But yeah, so remember you're looking for your y-intercept and then you're just trying to find the slope. Okay, so that is all of 612. We got a few more questions we have 2 more sections from 622 and we'll work on those right now. So Brianna, all right, this is solve equations in context or unwinding, right? So Brianna took a taxi from our house to the airport. The taxi company charged a pickup fee of $4.30 plus $1.25 per mile. The total fare was $3.55, not including the tip. How many miles was the taxi ride? All right, so we need to first write an equation. We're going to write an equation. So let's go ahead and do this. So I am going to do this on my iPad. Remember, we were given a couple numbers, right? So I'm just going to read it. So Brianna took a taxi from her house to the airport. The taxi company charged a pickup fee of $4.30 plus $1.25 per mile. The total fare was $35.55. All right, so let's start with that. Our total fare is going to be $35.55. Remember when we did this, we started with our total equals our variable cost and our fixed cost plus our fixed costs. So we have a variable cost of, we're getting charged $1.25 per mile. And then we're going to add $4.30, right? And so when the way we describe per mile is we're going to use the letter M. So it's 125 times M plus $4.30. So what we need to do now is we're just going to solve for this letter M. So I need to subtract 430 from both sides. It's going to be minus $4.30. The 430s on the right-hand side cancel out. So we'll be left with $1.25 times M equals, this is going to be 25, 31, 25. All right, so 30 minus 55 is going to be 25. 0 minus 5 is 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. 3 minus 0 is 3. All right, so from here, we need to get that 125. We need to remove that 125, so we're going to divide. So we got 31.25, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use my use my calculator here. It's the end of the day, so my brain is starting to get fried here. Divided by 1.25, so it's going to be 25, right? So my M, remember, because these simplify, this goes away. So my M is going to be worth, so he drove 25 miles. That trip to the airport is 25 miles. So when you go back, let's go back over here. We want to do 25 miles, hit submit, and voila. Okay. Let's do one more. All right. So members of a soccer team raised $1,016. So we raised $1,416.50 to go to a tournament. They rented a bus for $877 plus 50 cents and budgeted $24.50 per player meal. We're going to use the letter M to represent the number of meals. Determine the number of players the team can bring to the tournament. All right, so we're trying to figure out how many meals that they can provide for. So we're looking for the number of players. So we're looking, let's go ahead and change this really quick. Instead of using the letter M, we're going to use the letter P because we're looking for the number of players. All right, so remember our total was 1,146. So I'm going to go ahead and write our equation. 1,416.50 equals, it's going to be $24.50 per person to eat. And then they had a flat fee. It didn't matter if they had one person or 100 people. Well, actually, it would matter if it's 100 people in the bus because you can't fit 100 people in that bus, probably. So this would be our equation, right? So we're trying to get this. We're trying to get this P by itself. So we're going to subtract. So on the right-hand side, we're going to be left with 2450 times P. And on the left-hand side, we'll be left with, I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator one more time. So I'm going to type in 1,416.5 minus 877 and 50 cents. So you're going to be left with $539. It'll look like this. So we have 539 equals 2450 times P. Remember, this is multiplication. We get the P by itself. So we're going to divide by 2450. Divide by 2450. So P's simplify. So we're left with P on the right-hand side. If we take our number 539 and divide that by 2450, we will get 22. So we can take 22 people. 22 people. So let's go ahead and type that into our answer. So we're going to take 22 players. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. All right. So there's the solving equations in context, right? The last thing we're going to do before I end the stream is we're going to write and solve equations in context. We're going to write and solve equations in context. So Chase took a taxi from his house to the airport. The taxi company charged a pickup fee. Oh, same type of problem as before. But now it's going to ask us to write the equation and then solve for x. So it's the same type of problem. It's just now it's asking for us to write it in context. So let's go ahead and, right. So remember, our total fare, just by reading the problem, is going to be $48.70. Our variable cost, remember, that's going to be how much we have to pay per mile or because we're taking a taxi, we're going somewhere, so we're paying per mile. It's going to be $4.75, but it's asking us to use the letter X to represent the number of miles. And then we're going to write plus $1.20. So this is what we need to type into that first line. If I go back, this is what it's asking for. We want to do 4870 equals 475 times x plus 120. All right, so now we're just going to solve for x. I'm trying to figure out how many miles would you go if you were charged a total of 4870. Okay, so let's solve for x, right? So we're going to start by subtracting 120 from both sides. So we're going to be left with, on the right-hand side, we're going to be left with 475 times x. On the left-hand side, 0 minus 0 is 0. 7 minus 2 is 5. 8 minus 1 is 7. 4 minus nothing is 4. So this is what we got so far. Right? So this is now, remember, this is multiplication. 475 times x. So we want to undo that. We're going to undo that by dividing 475. Right? So this reduces to 1. My dollars reduce. And if I use my calculator, I'm pretty sure it's 10, but I just want to double check because my brain has not been working so far during this stream. I just want to double check. 4750 divided by 475. Yeah, it's going to be 10. So this is reduces. This is going to be 10 equals x, or x equals 10. So our answer is going to be 10. And hit submit. So these are just like the other ones, but now I'm just asking you to write the equation. Okay. All right. Well, I think I'm going to call it there. I wanted to do about an hour on my first live stream, and it will go over any questions. If you have any further questions or need help on how to do anything from this, remember you can always reach out to me at my email right here, ssiegel at, oh, there it is. Wait, move that out of the way. ssiegel at centralunified.org. If you have any other questions, you can ask. You can also talk to me in class, right? So I will see you in class on tomorrow or Friday, right? Have a great day.